The alien fleet materialized above Earth's moon, and within seconds every sensor across the solar system screamed warnings into the void. Commander Jake Morrison watched his tactical display explode with red markers as hundreds of crystalline warships emerged from slipspace. His hands moved across the controls of the orbital defense platform, but he already knew the truth that made his blood run cold. Humanity had exactly 4 minutes before the first volley reached Earth. The Vakarian Dominion had sent their Judgment Fleet, the same armada that had scorched 12 civilizations from existence over the past century. Their message transmission cut through every frequency, cold and absolute. Humanity had been weighed, measured, and found guilty of the ultimate crime. Expansion. Ambition. The audacity to reach beyond their cradle world without permission from the elder races. Jake's second officer, Lieutenant Amy Parker, turned from her console with wide eyes. The weapon systems were online, but their defense grid was designed to handle asteroids and debris, not a fleet that had ended species far more advanced than humanity. Below them, cities glittered across Earth's night side, 18 billion souls unaware that their extinction had been scheduled. The Vakarian message continued its loop. Humanity had 3 days to prepare for cleansing. Their weapons would sterilize every human colony, every station, every ship. It was not war. War implied that the other side could fight back. This was extermination, clinical, and merciless. Jake pulled up the communications array and started transmitting to every human outpost, every colony ship, every mining operation scattered across the solar system.
Run!
But even as he sent it, he knew the truth. The Vakarian had hunted species across light years. There was nowhere humanity could hide that they wouldn't eventually be found. Then something impossible happened. Every human-made device in the solar system went dark for exactly 3 seconds. Jake's heart stopped as his console died. The lights flickered out, and the gentle hum of life support cut to silence. When power returned, a new message flashed across every screen. It wasn't from the Vakarian. It wasn't from Earth Command. The signature was unknown, but the content made Jake's hands shake. Evacuation complete. 37 billion humans extracted. 0 casualties. Departure from this dimension in 90 seconds. To those who thought to judge us, understand this. You found an empty nest. We are done with warnings. We are done with diplomacy. We are done with mercy. Jake stared at the message, his mind struggling to process the words. 37 billion? That was everyone. Every human in every colony, every station, every ship, every settlement on Earth. The tactical display confirmed it. Every life sign had vanished from Earth. From Mars. From the belt colonies. From every human habitat in the solar system. The planet below showed no lights now, no heat signatures, no electromagnetic emissions. Just empty cities and silent streets. Humanity had been here, and now they were gone. Evacuated by something, someone, in 3 seconds of darkness. The Vakarian fleet changed formation, their ships moving into bombardment positions. They didn't care that their targets had vanished. They had come to deliver judgment, and judgment would be delivered. Their weapons charged, energy readings spiking across every spectrum. Jake felt the station shake as something massive moved through space nearby. His sensors couldn't lock onto it, couldn't define its shape or size. Whatever it was big enough to warp local space-time. Big enough to make the station's artificial gravity fluctuate. Another message appeared, and this one made the blood drain from Jake's face. It was addressed to the Vakarian, transmitted on their own command frequencies. You came to judge a species barely 3 centuries into space travel. You came with ships and weapons meant to intimidate primitives. You should have asked yourselves one question. Why did humanity build all of this on the surface? Why did they build where you could see them? The first Vakarian ship exploded. Not from weapons fire. It simply came apart, its crystalline hull shattering into fragments that sparkled in the starlight. Then another, and another. 12 ships dissolved in 12 seconds, and the Vakarian fleet began to scatter, their formation breaking as panic replaced precision. Jake's console showed new contacts, massive ones. They had been there all along, hidden in dimensions adjacent to normal space, waiting. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Ships that made the Vakarian dreadnoughts look like toys. Each one bore human design aesthetics, but scaled up to sizes that defied belief. The largest was 40 kilometers long, a blade of darkness that seemed to drink in the light around it. One final message pulsed across all frequencies. Humanity built on the surface because we wanted to be found. We wanted you to come. We wanted to see who in this galaxy believed they had the right to judge others. You have your answer now. This is not war. War implies you had a choice. This is education. Learn well. We are not the students anymore. The Vacrine flagship tried to jump to slip space, its drives charging in a desperate bid to escape. The massive human vessel moved, if something that large could be said to move, and suddenly the flagship was simply gone, not destroyed, not disabled, erased. The space it had occupied smoothed over as if the ship had never existed. Jake watched the battle unfold, if it could be called a battle. The Vacrine fleet fought back with weapons that had broken worlds, but their fire splashed harmlessly against barriers that bent physics itself. Human ships didn't return fire. They didn't need to. They moved through the enemy formation like sharks through a school of fish, and wherever they passed, Vacrine vessels ceased to exist. In 17 minutes, the Judgment Fleet was gone. Not a single ship remained. The human vessels hung in space for a long moment, silent and terrible. Then they too vanished, folding back into whatever hidden dimensions they had emerged from. Jake was alone on his station, the only human left in the solar system, staring at empty space where two fleets had just fought. His console beeped. One last message. Jake Morrison, your service is noted. Extraction in 30 seconds. Recommend you secure yourself. The reunification is about to begin. You'll want to see this. Jake barely had time to strap into his chair before the darkness took him. When he opened his eyes, he was standing on a bridge that stretched so far he couldn't see the ends. Windows showed space outside, but it was wrong. Stars moved in patterns that hurt to watch. Reality itself seemed thin here, like paper stretched too tight. A woman approached him, wearing a uniform he didn't recognize but somehow knew. She smiled, and her eyes held something ancient and terrifying. Welcome aboard, Commander. Sorry about the theatrics, but we needed the Vacrine to understand. They came to judge us, but they never asked the right questions. They never wondered why humanity spread so slowly, why we built so carefully, why we seemed so weak. Jake found his voice, though it came out rough. Where is everyone?
Where's Earth? Safe.
All of them. Every human who is living on the surface, in the colonies, in the ships. We pulled them out the moment the Vacrine arrived. They're below decks, most of them still asleep. They'll wake up tomorrow in new homes, better homes, and most will never know they left Earth. The woman gestured to the impossible bridge around them. This is what humanity really built, Commander. While the galaxy watched us stumble around our solar system, we were building this, the Great Fleet. 3,000 ships, each one capable of moving outside normal space-time. We've been ready for a century. We were just waiting to see who would come knocking. Jake staggered to the nearest viewport and pressed his hand against the transparent material. Outside he could see other ships, vast beyond comprehension, moving in perfect formation. Each one was a work of art and terror combined, their hulls inscribed with equations he recognized from theoretical physics papers that weren't supposed to have practical applications for another 1,000 years. How long? His voice was barely a whisper. How long have we been able to do this? The woman, who still hadn't introduced herself, moved to stand beside him. We cracked dimensional folding in 2187. Real folding, not the baby steps the other species use for faster-than-light travel. Once we had that, everything else fell into place. Artificial gravity wells, probability manipulation, quantum displacement. The aliens out there, the ones who think they're so advanced, they're still playing with chemical rockets compared to what we've built. Jake turned to face her, anger rising through his shock. Then why? Why did we let them threaten us? Why did we pretend to be weak? Because we needed to know. Her expression hardened. Humanity has been alone in this galaxy for 300 years, Jake. We reached out, we explored, we tried to make friends, and every single time we were met with contempt. The Vacrine, the Zoltar Collective, the Harmonious Chorus, all of them looked at us like insects. They created laws to limit our expansion. They formed councils to decide our fate. They never once asked us what we wanted. They just assumed we would obey. She pulled up a holographic display that showed the galaxy, with thousands of highlighted systems. These are the territories claimed by the Elder Races. Notice anything? Jake studied the map. The claimed territories formed a rough sphere around human space, with gaps carefully maintained. You're surrounded. Boxed in. Exactly. They quarantined us. Decided that humanity was too aggressive, too ambitious, too dangerous to be allowed to spread. So they built a cage around us and called it diplomacy. The woman's smile was cold. We could have broken out any time in the last 70 years, but we wanted to see how far they would take it. Would they be content to just limit us, or would they eventually decide to eliminate the problem entirely? And the Vacrine gave you your answer. They gave us our excuse. The Valkyrian Judgment Fleet was their final solution. They were coming to kill every human in existence, and they told the other elder races this was justified, necessary, merciful, even. They convinced themselves that wiping out 18 billion lives was the right thing to do. That's when we knew. There's no place for us in their galaxy. Not as equals. Not as anything but slaves or corpses. Jake looked around the bridge again, seeing it with new understanding. The crew members at their stations, maybe 50 of them visible, all working with calm precision. None of them seemed surprised by what had happened. They had known. All of them had known. How many people are in on this? How many humans know the truth? About 2 million. Engineers, scientists, military personnel, everyone involved in the Great Fleet Project. We've been recruiting for decades, pulling the best and brightest without telling them what they were really working on until they were already committed. The rest of humanity had no idea. They lived their lives on Earth, on Mars, in the colonies, thinking we were just another young species trying to find our place. They felt the fear when alien ships appeared. They believed we were vulnerable because you needed them to sell it. Jake felt sick. You used them as bait.
We used them as evidence.
There's a difference. The woman's voice softened slightly. Every single one of them is safe, Jake. Every child, every parent, every person who is living in the open. We spent 50 years building extraction systems that could pull them out in seconds. We tested it 1,000 times. When the Valkyrian arrived, we executed the largest rescue operation in human history, and we did it in 3 seconds. Nobody died. Nobody was left behind. They're all safe. Safe where? Where did you take them? The woman gestured at the deck beneath their feet. Here. All 3,000 ships in the Great Fleet are mobile habitats. Each one can support millions of people indefinitely. We've got parks, cities, farms, schools, everything they need. Most of them are still in transit sleep, but they'll wake up in environments better than what they left. We planned for this. We prepared for this. We hoped we wouldn't need to do this, but we were ready. Jake walked to a command station and studied the readouts. The numbers were staggering. Ship mass measured in gigatons. Power output that could fuel a small star. Weapons systems that could crack planets. And there were 3,000 of these vessels. How did you hide all this? We built them in higher dimensions. The woman pulled up schematics. Normal 3-dimensional space is just one layer of reality. We learned to fold ourselves into adjacent dimensions, places where the laws of physics are slightly different. These ships exist partially outside normal space. That's why the Valkyrian couldn't see them coming. That's why their weapons couldn't hurt us. We were shooting at them from angles they didn't know existed. And now that the secret's out, now we leave. The galaxy had its chance to accept us. They chose violence instead. So we're going somewhere else, somewhere far from the elder races and their judgment. We've identified a region of space about 80,000 light-years from here, past the galactic core. No claimed territories, no alien empires. Just empty space and virgin worlds. We'll build there. Properly this time. No more hiding. No more pretending to be weak. Jake felt the enormity of it settle over him. You're talking about relocating the entire human species across the galaxy. Not across. Through. We'll move through higher dimensions. The trip will take about 6 months subjective time. The ships are already moving. We left the solar system the moment the last Valkyrian vessel was eliminated. Earth is already 30,000 light-years behind us. What about the stations? The satellites? Everything we built? Dismantled and stored or destroyed. We're not leaving anything useful behind. The elder races wanted to judge us, wanted to find us guilty. Well, now they get to live with the consequences. They'll send investigators to Earth. They'll find empty cities and silent streets. They'll wonder where we went. They'll worry about when we might come back. The woman finally extended her hand. Captain Lisa Grant. I command this vessel, the Horizon's Edge. You're one of 500 military personnel we extracted from active duty stations. Your experience with tactical operations makes you valuable. We're offering you a position in the Fleet Defense Network. You'd be training others, preparing for threats we might encounter on the journey. Jake took her hand, his mind still reeling. And if I refuse, then you wake up in a habitat module with 30,000 other civilians and live a peaceful life growing vegetables or teaching school or whatever else you want to do. Nobody's forcing anyone into service. We've had enough of being told what to do. We're not going to start doing it to each other. A new alarm sounded, and Captain Grant turned to a console. Her expression shifted to something predatory. Well, it seems the Harmonious Chorus heard about the Valkyrian fleet's fate. They're sending their own ships to investigate. 200 vessels just dropped out of hyperspace near where Earth used to be. What do we do? Grant's smile was sharp. We educate them, too. They wanted to know where humanity went. Let's show them. She turned to her crew. Battle stations. Full-dimensional deployment. I want every ship in the Chorus task force to see us. I want them to understand exactly what they're dealing with. No survivors this time.
We need the message to spread.
The bridge transformed around them. Holographic displays erupted from every surface, showing tactical data, ship positions, weapon status. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, calling out readings and confirmations. Jake felt the ship shift, reality bending around them as they prepared to fold back into normal space. Grant stood at the center of it all, her presence commanding. This is what they made us into. They treated us like children, like savages, like problems to be solved. They never considered that we might be something else entirely, something new, something they couldn't predict or control. Now they're going to learn the truth. Humanity isn't leaving because we're afraid. We're leaving because we're done with them. Done with their rules, their contempt, their judgment. We're going to build something better out there in the dark. And if anyone tries to stop us, they'll discover what real power looks like. The ship lurched, and suddenly they were back in normal space, but not where they had been. They had jumped ahead, intercepting the Harmonious Chorus fleet before it reached the abandoned solar system. 200 alien ships found themselves surrounded by 500 human vessels, each one a monument to what humanity had really been building while the galaxy slept. Grant's voice carried across all frequencies. This is Captain Lisa Grant of the human vessel Horizon's Edge. You came looking for answers. Here they are. Humanity is leaving. You will not follow us. You will not seek us. You will not speak our name again. Consider this mercy. Consider this the only warning you will receive. Depart now, or learn why the Vakreen are gone. The Chorus fleet tried to form a defensive formation, but it was too late. Human ships moved through them like ghosts, appearing and disappearing, always just out of reach. Warning shots crossed their bows, energy beams that should have been impossible, that violated every known law of physics. 3 Chorus ships ignored the warning and opened fire. They ceased to exist before their weapons fully discharged. The rest broke and ran, jumping to hyperspace in a panicked exodus. They had come expecting to find weakness, maybe some survivors to interrogate. Instead, they found nightmare made real, a humanity transformed into something the galaxy had never seen before. Grant watched them flee with satisfaction. Good. Let them carry the tale. Let every species in the galaxy hear what happened here. We're not victims anymore. We're not supplicants begging for a place at the table. We are the storm they should have avoided. Jake stood at his new station, hands trembling slightly as he processed what he had just witnessed. The tactical display showed the human fleet reforming, moving back into higher dimensional space where sensors couldn't track them. In normal space, the area where Earth's solar system had been was now completely empty except for debris from the Vakreen attack. Even the sun looked dimmer somehow, as if the departure of humanity had stolen some of its light. Captain Grant approached him, her expression serious. You're wondering if we're the bad guys now? If we've become the monsters we feared? Jake nodded slowly. We just threatened to destroy 200 ships. We made them run in terror. Isn't that exactly what the Vakreen tried to do to us? No. Grant pulled up historical records on a nearby display. The Vakreen came to exterminate. They were going to kill everyone, men, women, children, everyone. They weren't interested in surrender or negotiation. They had decided we deserved to die simply for existing. What we did here was give a warning. We had the power to destroy that entire Chorus fleet in seconds, but we let them go. We let them live so they could tell others. That's the difference between justice and genocide. Jake studied the records. Centuries of human history with alien species, every interaction documented. The pattern was clear. Humanity had tried diplomacy, trade, cultural exchange, everything. And every time the elder races had responded with condescension at best, hostility at worst, treaties that favored them, trade deals that exploited human resources, council decisions made without human input, the slow, steady pressure of a galaxy that wanted humanity to stay small, stay quiet, stay irrelevant. How many other species are trapped like we were? How many are sitting in their home systems right now, afraid to expand because the elder races will crush them? Grant's expression softened. That's why we're documenting everything. Every encounter, every threat, every act of aggression against us. When we reach our destination and establish ourselves, we're going to send out a message, an invitation. Any species that wants freedom from the elder races, any civilization tired of being held down, they can come to us. We'll help them. We'll share our technology. We'll build something new together. A new voice interrupted from across the bridge. Captain, we have a situation. You need to see this. Grant moved quickly to the communications station, Jake following close behind. The officer there, a young man named Peter Hayes, looked troubled. We're receiving a signal. It's coming from the Zoltar Collective's homeworld. They're requesting a meeting. They want to negotiate. Jake felt his jaw tighten. The Zoltar Collective had been one of the loudest voices calling for human containment. Their representatives had stood before the Galactic Council and argued that humanity's expansion should be stopped by any means necessary. Now they wanted to talk. Grant studied the message, her eyes cold. What are they offering? Full recognition, a seat on the Galactic Council, access to elder technology. Freedom to expand into unclaimed territories. They're saying they were wrong about us, that they want to make amends. It's a trap. Jake spoke without thinking. Sorry, Captain, but it has to be. They're scared now. They see what we can do and they want to slow us down, figure out our capabilities. The moment they think they have a counter to our technology, this offer disappears. Grant nodded slowly. You're probably right. But we need to respond anyway. We need to make our position clear. She turned to the communications officer. Send this message. Humanity thanks the Zoltar Collective for their generous offer. However, we must decline. We have seen how the elder races treat those they consider equals. You offer us a seat at a table where you hold all the power. You offer us access to technology you've been withholding for centuries. You offer us freedom you had no right to restrict in the first place. Your offer is not negotiation. It is an admission of fear. We do not want your council seat. We do not want your technology. We want nothing from you except to be left alone. If you attempt to follow us, if you attempt to interfere with our departure, you will share the fate of the Vacrine Judgment Fleet. This is not a threat. This is a statement of fact. Humanity is done being judged. End transmission. Bridge fell silent. Jake could see the crew members exchanging glances, some nervous, some excited. This was a historic moment. Humanity was cutting all ties with the known galaxy, burning bridges that had taken centuries to build. There would be no going back from this. Grant seemed to sense the tension. She raised her voice so everyone could hear. I know some of you are scared. I know some of you think we're making a mistake, but consider what we're leaving behind. A galaxy that sees us as inferior, species that believe they have the right to control our destiny, governments that meet in secret to decide how much space humanity deserves to occupy. Is that really worth staying for? A woman at the navigation station spoke up. Captain, my family lived on Europa. My daughter was 6 years old. When the Vacrine came, I thought I would never see her again. But she's safe now, sleeping in a habitat module 2 decks below us. Whatever we're leaving behind, whatever risks we're taking, it's worth it for that. For knowing my child has a future. Others nodded in agreement. Jake felt his own resolve hardening. Grant was right. The galaxy they were leaving had shown its true nature. Better to strike out into the unknown than to live under the threat of extinction. The communications officer raised his hand. Captain, we're getting another signal. This one is different. It's on a really old frequency, one we haven't used in decades. And it's not from the elder races. Grant frowned. Source? Unknown. But the encoding matches human protocols from about 100 years ago, before we made first contact with the Zoltar. Whoever sent this, they know things about us that most of the galaxy doesn't. Play it. A voice crackled over the speakers, distorted by distance and interference, but unmistakably human. This is the research vessel Morningstar calling any human ships in range. We're stranded in the Andromeda Galaxy. We've been here for 87 years. We made the jump trying to test an experimental drive system and couldn't get back. There are 42 of us left, second and third generation. We've been listening to galactic transmissions, heard about the Vacrine attack, heard about the Great Fleet. If you're really out there, if humanity really built those ships, please respond. We want to come home. The bridge erupted in shocked murmurs. Jake felt his chest tighten. Andromeda Galaxy. That was 2.5 million light years away. If there were humans there, they had been stranded for nearly a century with no hope of rescue. Grant's decision was immediate. Navigation, plot a course to Andromeda. Engineering, I need a fold capable of crossing intergalactic space. Communications, keep that channel open and let them know we're coming. She turned to Jake. Commander, I'm putting you in charge of the rescue operation. Take a team, take whatever resources you need. We're not leaving anyone behind. Jake nodded, already mentally assembling his team. But Captain, Andromeda is millions of light years away. Even with our ships, that's going to take time. And we have 37 billion people who need to reach the new colonies. The fleet can wait. Grant's voice was firm. Those people have been alone for 87 years, thinking humanity had forgotten them. We've just told the galaxy that we're done being weak, that we protect our own. If we leave them stranded now, what does that say about us? We go get them, all of them. Then we continue to our destination together. A new officer arrived on the bridge, an older woman with commander's insignia. Captain Grant, Fleet Command is questioning the delay. The Andromeda rescue will add months to our journey. Some of the civilian ships are running low on certain resources. They're asking if this is really necessary. Grant's eyes flashed. Tell Fleet Command that it is absolutely necessary. Tell them that we just fought our way free from a galaxy that viewed us as disposable. We are not going to adopt their values. Every human life matters. Every single one. If we have to ration supplies, we ration. If we have to slow down, we slow down. But we do not leave our people behind. The commander saluted and left. Jake felt a surge of respect for Grant. She was right. The moment humanity started calculating which lives were worth saving and which weren't, they would become exactly what they were fleeing from. Grant turned to the navigation station. How long for the Andromeda jump? 6 hours to calculate the fold coordinates, then another 3 hours to charge the drives. We'll need to bring the whole fleet through. Can't risk splitting up in intergalactic space. Make it happen. Grant addressed the entire bridge crew. I know we're all tired. I know the last few days have been beyond stressful. But we have people counting on us. People who thought they would die alone in another galaxy. Let's show them what humanity has become. Let's show them that we're worth the hope they've been holding on to. The crew responded with renewed energy. Jake moved to his assigned station and started coordinating with other ships in the fleet. The rescue operation would require precise timing. They would need to fold the entire fleet across intergalactic space, locate the stranded ship, and extract the survivors without alerting any local species to their presence. It was ambitious. It was risky. It was exactly the kind of thing that humanity did best. 9 hours later, Jake stood in the observation deck of the Horizon's Edge as the fleet prepared for the jump. Through the massive viewport, he could see dozens of other ships holding formation, their hulls shimmering with the energy buildup needed for an intergalactic fold. 3,000 vessels carrying the entire surviving human population, about to attempt something that should have been impossible. Lieutenant Amy Parker joined him at the viewport. She had been extracted from the same defense platform, pulled through dimensional space in the same terrifying instant. Since then, she had been assigned to the navigation team, helping calculate the complex mathematics needed for long-range jumps. Never thought I would see anything like this. Her voice was quiet, almost reverent. A few days ago, I was tracking asteroids and worrying about supply shipments. Now we're about to jump to another galaxy. Jake managed a small smile. I keep waiting to wake up, to find out this is some kind of elaborate simulation or fever dream. But it's real, all of it. The announcement came over the ship-wide speakers. All personnel secure for dimensional transition, jump commencing in 60 seconds. Jake and Amy grabbed the nearby support rails. The ship's gravity would hold them in place, but the sensation of folding through higher dimensions was unpleasant at best. Jake had experienced it twice now, and both times had left him nauseous and disoriented. The countdown reached 0, and reality twisted. Jake's vision blurred, colors bleeding together in ways that shouldn't be possible. Sound became visual, light became tactile. For a moment that felt like hours. He existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. His consciousness stretched across space-time like butter scraped over too much bread.
Then it snapped back. Normal space?
Normal physics? Normal everything? Jake gasped and nearly collapsed, but Amy caught his arm. The viewport showed something magnificent. Andromeda Galaxy, a vast spiral of stars filling their vision. They had just crossed 2.5 million light-years in less than 10 seconds. Grant's voice came over the intercom. All ships, report status. Navigation. Begin scanning for the Morningstar signal. Jake straightened and made his way back to the bridge with Amy following. The crew was already working, running diagnostics and coordinating with other ships. The jump had been successful, but several vessels reported minor damage to their dimensional drives. Nothing critical, but they would need repairs before attempting the return journey. Contact. The communications officer sounded excited. I have the Morningstar. They're located about 3,000 light-years into the galaxy, orbiting a red dwarf star in an unclaimed region. They're still transmitting. Grant nodded. Send a response. Tell them we're here and we're coming to get them. Navigation, how long to reach their position. 2 hours at sublight speeds. We could fold there directly, but we have no idea what the local situation is. Could be hostile species, could be spatial anomalies. Recommend we approach cautiously. Agreed. Take us in slow. Tactical, I want full scans of everything within 100 light-years of their position. If there are any threats, I want to know about them before we arrive. Jake took his station and began coordinating the tactical analysis. The scans revealed dozens of inhabited systems, most of them showing early industrial or pre-industrial civilizations. Nothing that would pose a threat to the fleet. But there was one anomaly. A cluster of artificial structures about 5 light years from the Morningstar's position. Clearly advanced technology. Captain, we have something. Jake pulled up the data. Looks like a space station or possibly a shipyard. Technology level is unclear, but it's definitely not natural, and it's positioned between us and the stranded ship. Grant studied the information. Any signs of activity? Minimal. Some energy signatures, but nothing that suggests military presence. Could be automated or lightly crewed. We can't risk leading them to the Morning Star. If they've been stranded this long without being discovered, we need to keep it that way until we extract them. She thought for a moment. Tactical, how many ships would we need to investigate that station without exposing the fleet? Jake ran calculations. 1, maybe 2. Small team, quick insertion. Get in, assess the threat level, get out. You're volunteering.
It wasn't a question.
Yes, ma'am. Jake felt his pulse quicken. Let me take the scouting vessel Pathfinder. Small crew, advanced sensors, designed for exactly this kind of mission. Approved. Take Lieutenant Parker with you. She knows these sensor systems better than anyone. You have 4 hours. If you're not back by then, we're coming in regardless. Jake and Amy assembled their team quickly. 6 people total, enough to crew the Pathfinder and handle any situations they might encounter. The Pathfinder itself was a marvel of engineering. A ship small enough to avoid detection, but powerful enough to defend itself if necessary. It could fold through dimensions just like the larger vessels, though with less range and precision. They detached from the horizon's edge and began their approach to the mysterious station. As they got closer, details became clearer. The structure was enormous, easily 10 kilometers across, with multiple docking bays and what looked like manufacturing facilities. But it was old. Really old. Sections of the hull showed damage from micrometeorite impacts that would have taken thousands of years to accumulate. Amy studied her sensors. I'm not detecting any life signs. No power signatures beyond basic maintenance systems. Whatever this place was, it's been abandoned for a long time. Jake frowned. Then why are the lights still on? Look at docking bay 3. Those are active running lights. Could be automated, could be on a timer, could be a trap. Amy's voice held concern. Only one way to find out. Jake guided the Pathfinder toward the nearest docking bay. Let's take a closer look. Everyone stay sharp. They docked without incident. The bay's atmosphere was breathable, maintained by systems that had apparently been running for centuries. Jake led the team out, weapons ready, but not raised. Aggression might provoke a response from whatever automated defenses remained active. The interior of the station was like walking through a museum. Corridors stretched in every direction, walls covered in symbols and writing that Jake didn't recognize. The style was elegant but alien, nothing like any species humanity had encountered. Equipment sat in alcoves, gathering dust but still humming with faint power. Amy stopped at a wall panel. Commander, you should see this. She had activated some kind of display, and images were cycling across it. Star maps. Technical schematics. And then, surprisingly, images of humans. Not just any humans, but humans in outdated clothing, early 22nd century styles. Jake felt his chest tighten. The Morningstar crew. They've been here. Not just been here. Amy pointed to more displays. They've been living here. Look, there are logs. Video records. Someone set up a base here decades ago. Jake accessed the logs and a face appeared on the screen. A woman, maybe 40 years old, with tired eyes and gray streaking her hair. This is Dr. Helen Cruz of the research vessel Morningstar, date stamp year 2229. If anyone finds this, we made it to the station, all 42 of us. The locals call it the Archive. It was built by a species that died out millennia ago, but their machines still work. We've learned so much here. But we need help. We need to get home. If humanity ever develops the technology to cross intergalactic space, please find us. We're waiting. The message ended. Jake checked the date. 2229. That was nearly 90 years ago. If they had been here then, where were they now? Amy had moved to another panel. Commander, there's more. Recent logs.
From last year.
Jake pulled them up. A different face this time, a young man who couldn't have been more than 25. This is Daniel Cruz, born on the Archive station. My grandmother was Dr. Helen Cruz. She died 15 years ago, but she never stopped believing humanity would come for us. There are 18 of us left now. The others died over the years. Age, accidents, illnesses we couldn't treat. But we're still here. Still waiting. Still hoping. The signal we've been transmitting is automated, drawing power from the station's reactors. If you're hearing this, if you've come this far, we're in Section 7 of the Archive. The central chamber. Please hurry, we're running out of time. Jake felt his blood run cold. Running out of time. What did that mean? We need to find Section 7. Move quickly, but stay alert. We don't know what kind of danger they're facing. They navigated through the station using the star maps they found. Section 7 was deep in the core, past corridors filled with alien technology and chambers that looked like laboratories. As they approached the central chamber, Jake heard something that made him stop. Voices, human voices speaking in urgent tones, and he rounded the corner and found them. 18 people, ranging in age from teenagers to elderly, all gathered around what looked like a massive computer terminal. They were thin, malnourished, wearing clothes that had been patched and repaired countless times. But they were alive. A woman at the terminal looked up as Jake's team entered. Her eyes went wide. You're real. You're actually real. She stumbled toward them, and Jake caught her as she nearly fell. You came. After all these years, you actually came.
Jake helped her sit down.
We're here. We're taking all of you home. The whole fleet is waiting just a few light years away. Tears streamed down her face. I'm Sarah Martinez. My grandmother was on the original Morningstar crew. We thought after so long that maybe humanity had been destroyed, or that we weren't worth coming back for. But you're here. Amy was already checking the others, assessing their medical conditions. They were all suffering from malnutrition and various untreated ailments, but nothing immediately life-threatening. They had survived against all odds for nearly a century. Daniel Cruz approached Jake, the young man from the video logs. We need to leave soon. The station's reactor is failing. We've been keeping it running with repairs and patches, but it's critical now. We have maybe days before it goes into meltdown. That's why my last message said we were running out of time. Jake nodded. We can be off this station in an hour. But I need to know, is there anything here worth saving? Any technology or data that humanity could use? Daniel's expression became serious. Everything. This whole station is a repository of knowledge from a species that was spacefaring when humanity was still living in caves. They documented everything. Science, history, philosophy, art. If we can take this data, it would advance human knowledge by thousands of years. Then we take it all. Jake opened a channel to the horizon's edge. Captain Grant, we found them. All 18 survivors. But we have a situation. This station contains a massive database of alien knowledge. Technology centuries beyond what we have. We need engineering teams and data specialists here immediately. Grant's response was immediate. With full extraction teams. They'll be there in 90 minutes. Get those people to safety first, then we secure the data. The next 2 hours were chaos. Engineering teams swarmed through the archive, downloading centuries of accumulated knowledge while simultaneously stabilizing the failing reactor. Jake coordinated the evacuation, getting each survivor aboard the Pathfinder, and then transferring them to medical ships from the fleet. Sarah Martinez refused to leave until the last moment, insisting on helping catalog what was being taken. The archive had been built by a species called the Architects, who had reached their peak about 50,000 years ago before mysteriously dying out. They had left behind stations like this throughout multiple galaxies, repositories of everything they had learned. The Morningstar crew had stumbled onto one of the greatest archaeological finds in history and had been trapped with it for nearly a century. Jake stood with Daniel Cruz in what had once been the central hub of the Architects' knowledge network. Data streams flowed around them as human technology interfaced with alien systems that had been dormant for millennia. Your grandmother would be proud, Jake said quietly. She kept her crew alive. She gave birth to a generation that survived against impossible odds. And now that knowledge is going to help humanity build something incredible in our new home. Daniel nodded, his eyes distant. She used to tell me stories about Earth, about rainforests and oceans, cities and mountains. I've never seen any of that. None of us born here have. We grew up with alien stars and empty corridors, but we never forgot we were human. She made sure of that. You'll see Earth's children soon enough. We have habitat modules filled with forests and lakes, cities built to scale. It's not the same as the original, but it's home. And you'll be part of building something even better where we're going. The final data transfer completed. Amy reported from her station. Commander, we have everything. The reactor is being contained. We can do a controlled shutdown and then scuttle the station if necessary. Jake shook his head. No. Leave it active. This station has been waiting here for 50,000 years. Let it keep waiting. Maybe someday another species will find it and learn what we learned. The Architects wanted their knowledge to spread.
Let's honor that. Grant's voice came over the comm.
All teams extraction complete. Begin withdrawal. We're jumping back to the main fleet in 30 minutes. Jake and Daniel were among the last to leave the archive. As their ship pulled away, Jake watched the ancient station recede into the distance. It had saved the Morningstar survivors, given them shelter when they had nowhere else to go. Now it would return to its long vigil, waiting for the next lost travelers. The jump back to the fleet was smoother than before. The survivors were in medical bay, being treated for malnutrition and various ailments, but otherwise healthy. The data teams were already analyzing what they had recovered, and the initial reports were staggering. Faster-than-light travel that didn't require dimensional folding. Energy generation systems that could power entire planets from devices the size of a building. Medical technology that could extend human lifespans by centuries. Captain Grant met Jake in the conference room along with senior officers from across the fleet. On the view screen, the Andromeda Galaxy slowly rotated, beautiful and indifferent to the drama that had just unfolded within its borders. Well done, Commander. Grant's approval was evident. You not only rescued 18 stranded humans, you've given us a gift that will change everything. The Architect's data will accelerate our development by millennia. Jake felt the weight of exhaustion settling over him. With respect, Captain, I think that's exactly what we needed. The elder races in our home galaxy, they're old and set in their ways. They've had the same technology for thousands of years with only incremental improvements. They stagnated. But with this knowledge, combined with our own innovations, humanity can leapfrog them entirely. When we establish our new civilization, we won't just be refugees hiding in the dark. We'll be something unprecedented. That's the idea, but first we need to get there. Navigation, set course for our destination. All ships prepare for long-range fold. It's time to go home. But we don't have a home. One of the other officers spoke up. Earth is empty. The colonies are dismantled. We're heading into unknown space with no guarantee of what we'll find there. Then we make a home. Grant stood, her voice carrying conviction. That's what humans do. We adapt. We build. We survive. The elder races thought they could contain us, control us, judge us. They were wrong. We're not a species that fits into someone else's system. We forge our own path. And when we reach our destination, we're going to build a civilization that makes everything they have look primitive by comparison. The fleet began to move. 3,000 ships forming up in a formation that stretched across light years. Jake watched from the observation deck as they prepared for the final jump. Somewhere in those ships, 37 billion humans were living their lives. Most of them still didn't know the full truth of what had happened. They thought they had been evacuated from a threat, not extracted as part of a plan centuries in the making. Amy joined him at the viewport. Strange to think that a week ago, I was worried about passing my tactical certification exam. Now we're jumping across the galaxy to build a new civilization. Jake laughed, though there was little humor in it. Everything changed so fast. I keep wondering if we did the right thing. We abandoned Earth. We left behind everything our ancestors built. Did we abandon it, or did we transcend it? Amy gestured at the fleet. We took everyone with us. Every human life, every person who wanted to come. The elder races wanted to judge us, to put limits on how far we could go. We showed them that their judgment meant nothing. That's not abandonment. That's evolution. The jump alarm sounded. Final fold in 60 seconds. All personnel secure for transition. Jake and Amy grabbed support rails. This jump would be different from the others. This was the big one, the fold that would take them 80,000 light-years across the galaxy. 6 months of subjective time compressed into an instant of objective reality. When they emerged, they would be in a region of space no human had ever visited. Virgin territory waiting for them to claim it. The countdown reached 0, and reality folded. But this time, instead of the brief disorientation of previous jumps, Jake found himself falling through an endless void. He could see the ship around him, but it was transparent, ghost-like. Through the walls, he could see other ships, thousands of them, all falling through the same strange space. And beyond the ships, he saw something else. Patterns. Vast mathematical structures that seemed to underlie all of reality. The fundamental equations that governed existence itself. The Architect's data had included references to this, the substrate level of the universe. Humans had accidentally discovered how to access it through dimensional folding, but the Architects had studied it deliberately, mapped it, understood it. For 6 subjective months, Jake existed in this state. Time had no meaning here. He was simultaneously experiencing every moment of the journey, and none of them. He saw visions of human history, from the first primitive tools to the gleaming ships of the Great Fleet. He saw possible futures, branching paths that humanity might take. Some led to glory and triumph. Others led to stagnation and decline. None were certain. All were possible. When reality snapped back, Jake found himself on the observation deck, Amy beside him, both of them gasping as if they had been holding their breath. Outside the viewport, new stars shone. They had arrived. The destination was a cluster of 100 solar systems, all within a few light years of each other. Dozens of habitable worlds, hundreds of moons and asteroids rich with resources. It was perfect. It was exactly what humanity needed to build something magnificent. Grant's voice came over the ship-wide speakers. "This is Captain Lisa Grant, to all ships in the Great Fleet. We have arrived at our destination. Our journey is complete. I want every human in this fleet to understand what we've accomplished. We left behind a galaxy that wanted to judge us, to limit us, to ultimately destroy us. We crossed intergalactic space to rescue our stranded brothers and sisters. We recovered knowledge that will change our civilization forever. And now, we stand at the threshold of something new. A human civilization built on freedom, on knowledge, on the fundamental belief that no one has the right to judge another species for having ambition. We will build cities on these worlds. We will raise children under new suns. We will create art and science and culture that reflects the best of what humanity can be. And if anyone, anywhere, tries to stop us, they will learn what the Vakreen learned. What the Harmonious Chorus learned. We are not victims. We are not subjects. We are humanity, and we bow to no one. Welcome home, everyone. Welcome to the future." Jake watched as ships began detaching from the fleet, heading toward the nearest habitable world. The planet was beautiful, blue and green, with white clouds swirling across its surface. Engineers were already transmitting data, confirming it could support human life. Within weeks, the first cities would rise. Within months, millions would be living on the surface. Within years, this cluster would be home to the largest human civilization in history. Sarah Martinez appeared beside him. Having been released from medical, she looked healthier already, color returning to her face. Behind her, Daniel and the other archive survivors stood together, seeing their new home for the first time. "Is it everything you hoped for?" Jake asked her. Sarah smiled, tears streaming down her face. "It's better. We spent 90 years trapped in an alien station, hoping someone would remember us. Now we get to help build something incredible. My grandmother would have loved to see this." "She will." Jake gestured at the planet below. "Every city we build, we're going to name after someone who helped us get here. People like your grandmother, who kept hope alive when everything seemed lost. The elder races wanted to erase us. Instead, we're going to make sure every human who ever lived is remembered. That's our judgment, not extinction, legacy." The horizon's edge moved into orbit around the new world. Below, the first landing teams were already touching down, beginning surveys and establishing base camps. Within hours, the construction teams would follow, deploying the prefabricated structures that would become the first human cities in this new region of space. Within days, the evacuation from the ships would begin, transferring billions of people to the surface. Jake thought about Earth, empty and silent back in the home galaxy. He thought about the elder races, probably still trying to understand what had happened. He thought about the message humanity had sent, clear and unambiguous. We will not be judged. We will not be limited. We are leaving, and if you follow us, you will regret it. Amy put her hand on his shoulder. "What are you thinking?" "That we did it. We actually did it. Against an entire galaxy that wanted us gone, we survived. We escaped. We found each other, and now we get to build something better than what we left behind." Grant joined them at the viewport. She looked tired but satisfied. The hard part begins now. Building a civilization from scratch is one thing. Making sure it doesn't repeat the mistakes of the past is another. We need to make sure that 1,000 years from now, humanity doesn't become what the elder races were. Arrogant. Judgmental. Convinced of their own superiority. Jake nodded. "Then we teach. We remember. We make sure every generation knows why we left and what we left behind. We make sure they understand that freedom comes with responsibility. That power must be tempered with wisdom. That just because we can do something doesn't mean we should." The first city lights began to appear on the planet below as temporary power systems came online. Humanity was taking root in new soil, under new stars. Back in the home galaxy, the elder races would realize eventually that they had made a fundamental mistake. They had judged humanity and found them wanting. But in doing so, they had forced humanity to become something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. Not conquerors, not destroyers, but builders who refused to be broken. Visionaries who would not be contained. Survivors who had learned that sometimes the only winning move was to walk away and build something better elsewhere. Without farewell or warning, humanity had departed, and their judgment had indeed reached the stars. Not a judgment of others, but of themselves. A decision that they deserved better than a galaxy that saw them as problems to be solved rather than people to be respected. The future was uncertain. The challenges were immense. But for the first time in centuries, humanity faced those challenges on their own terms, in their own space, free from the weight of alien judgment. And that made all the difference.